Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 599th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today, we're going to talk about how to look good with your shirt off. Meet healthy entrepreneur Alex Feinberg. So I did a first. In almost 600 episodes, and I also did this interview without my shirt on. So, that could be very exciting or it could make you a little queasy. But either way, it's unique. I ran across this dude on Twitter. I've been following him for a while, engaging with him. And, I think he's onto something. I did not know his full story, so it was good catching up. He talked his way into a sales role with Google, did well, and discovered some things on his own. And he took what he learned on the road. Now it's his thing. So he talks a lot of sense. He has a very affordable program to help you change some big things that you do, but he gives some straightforward advice that you can follow and apply right away. I agree with what he's talking about, his approach. I shared some of my stories on fitness, and there you have it. I think you're in for a treat. I linked to a couple of other interesting things on the website, and one is I made a fitness video back during COVID. So if you go to this episode with Alex, you'll see the related episodes. I linked to it, and I link from there to some supplements I've taken over the years, so you can try that. But the biggest thing is just eating better, right? Eating cleaner, eating more meat, red meat. And Alex talks about that. So avail yourself of this. When you take the 12 weeks to peak, 12weekstopeak.com, I have you drinking more water. I have you avoiding junk food and sugar during the week, avoiding alcohol as well during the week. You can do it on the weekends if you feel the need. But the idea behind 12 weeks to peak is that no one operates on an island. Everything is connected. So how you feel affects how you show up to work. So your health matters, and your health is dictated by what you eat. Okay, so drink more water, get more sleep, eat more red meat, eat less processed foods, less sugar, less alcohol, and everything else will get better in your life. I promise you. When you feel better, you think better, you act better. So listen to this, get you some 12 weeks to peak, 12weekstopeak.com. It's free. I'm editing it all the time, making it better. You're getting in at the early stages, so come join me on this little journey, okay? Get healthy and help me improve it, and it'll help others. And you can say, hey, you were there from the beginning. 12weekstopeak.com. Get you some. Now, here's our interview with Alex. Alex Feinberg, calorie ignorer. Over 600 episodes, and you know what? You're the first, man. You got your shirt off.
Let's do it.
Shirt off, man.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. 600 episodes. I'm finally half naked. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
What are you doing to me, man? It must be like the holidays. You're getting to me. I'm like in this giving spirit.
I gotta let people know that you don't have to be on crazy diets to just look like this year round. It's like if you want to be Mr. Olympia, yeah, maybe you gotta go next level. But if you just want to look good with your shirt off, we don't have to be counting calories and eating bad tasting food. We can live a good life.
Well, I wish I'd found you earlier. I got to do jujitsu 6 days a week and abuse my body to be in shape. Are you telling me there's an easier way?
I'm telling you, I'm not only telling you there's an easier way. I'm telling you that I've worked with a lot of people and I've had to negotiate them doing less jujitsu so that they can have more intense workouts. And
less jujitsu. I am ending this conversation. No way. What? No. More jujitsu is always the answer. So tell me how to eat so I can do it 20 hours a day.
Well, if you want to do more jujitsu, I would recommend sleeping 12 hours a day, probably eating 4,500 calories and maybe considering some performance enhancing drugs. But I think a lot of people, they get the misconception with what they need to do to be in shape. And they always think move more, eat less, right? Because the fitness industry has hammered that into people's minds for years and years and years. And, I think I would guess, based on the lessons you've learned in your career, certainly the lessons I've learned in my life, there's a different set of steps that you need to take to go from beginner to intermediate than intermediate to advanced. And a lot of people get stuck at the intermediate level because they can't unlearn the lessons that got them from beginner to intermediate in order to get to advanced. And so most people, if they're out of shape, do need to move more and do need to eat less. But once they've gotten that initial habit of training multiple times per week and eating relatively healthy, they might find that they have better success eating more and moving less, doing the exact opposite of what got them from beginner to intermediate to get from intermediate to advanced. And this is something that I noticed when I was actually working, a sales job in Silicon Valley, where, I was doing way less from a training standpoint, not being meticulous with my diet, eating delicious food every meal of every day, and just seeing fat melt off in a way that shouldn't happen according to the latest exercise science research. But it was working, and it was working for a reason that nobody knew, nobody could really figure out. And I decided I should monetize this system and help as many people as I could eat delicious food and stay ripped year round.
So you were following a specific system then? Or
well, it was a system
were you lucky and like reverse engineer, like what the hell am I doing to get
it was a reverse engineer, right? I didn't look to, I looked to other roadmaps to follow, and none of them actually worked that well, right? I was a little bit puffier than I wanted to be in my 20s. I knew from playing baseball at an elite level, playing in college, playing in the lower levels of the minor leagues, that most people make decisions based on heuristics. And I know any good salesperson understands that people make decisions emotionally rather than rationally. And so I understood that being in good shape would help me in my career. I understood that if I was in good shape, wore a custom tailored suit and spoke well, I'd be able to elevator pitch my way into a Google sales job, which I did in 2011. And so I understood the commercial advantage of staying in shape. But I also thought that, I have to run multiple miles a day, do all this lifting, monitor my eating. And what I realized over the course of my multi-year career in Silicon Valley is that if I could train less but train harder, that was actually going to put me in a position where I really didn't have to try that hard to stay really, really lean. And it really calls into question the calories in, calories out system that most people base their diet and exercise program around, where certainly I'm burning calories, right? But I don't burn that many calories in the gym. It's more the type of activity that I'm doing in the gym leads me to burning more calories outside the gym. And we burn way more calories outside the gym than we burn inside the gym. And so the fact that most people's diet and exercise programs is optimized to maximize their calorie burn in the gym, they don't think that anything you do in the gym can actually translate to an appreciable change in your metabolism outside the gym. But that's absolutely false based on my experience and the experience that I have working with, hundreds of people, either through coaching or through the purchase of my products. And, what we've really found is a way to hack the metabolism so that we don't have to do all these, intricate steps. We just have to get a few things right, and we're in way better shape with way less effort. And I thought I stumbled across this system basically playing Jenga, saying like, I don't really want to do X. Let me see if I can get away with not doing X. Oh, I'm actually getting better results not doing X. Interesting. And, it was an iterative process. It took several years, and I found this system that just really works.
Well, people might be listening to this saying, I'm not a fitness guy, so I'm going to tune out of this and log in the next time. But it's like everything is interrelated. I was just at a client site a week and a half ago, and big company meeting, 100 people there, and oh my God. And I went to the day-long company meeting and then did a day-long sales training for the sales and marketing team the next day. But seeing the food that they gave them, breakfast was actually decent, a lot of proteins, fruit, but they had options. People were loading up on sausage, gravy with biscuits, and
I like that food. I eat that food.
I love it. I eat all of it, but I mean, I know how to I train hard too,
Yeah.
but I eat a lot more protein than ever before,
Hmm.
a lot less carbs.
Hmm.
But just seeing the carbs, plate after plate loaded with carbs, and everybody crashing, and then the snacks come out. Well, the snack that immediately after was, well, they already gave dessert. Then they brought out cookies after lunch, and then they brought out snack bars and candy bars, later on. And I'm like, we're eating ourselves to death in this country. And it affects performance. I mean, that's why we're talking, is that nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything we do, how we eat affects how we sleep. How we sleep affects how we perform the next day. Our performance includes exercising. If we don't feel good, we don't exercise. We don't exercise, we don't look good in a suit. I mean, we judge one another. We're not energetic. We're not optimistic. And it comes through in our sales and our marketing and our interpersonal relationships, which include vendors and customers and peers and coworkers and staff and bosses and on and on and on. So we got to eat right.
Yeah.
But
And
it's so hard. It's so confusing nowadays.
it's more confusing than hard. It's actually not hard if you have a system that works. It's confusing because a lot of people will tell you contradictory ideas. What's actually hardest is for people to unlearn the bad lessons that they've learned over the last couple of decades. In my view, most of these lessons are around calorie counting. Like I was speaking with somebody on Twitter yesterday who literally could not understand how I stay leaner, burning fewer calories on the treadmill. He's like, he can't escape this calories paradigm. And it's like, do you really think that Usain Bolt, tracks his calories burned? Do you think Cristiano Ronaldo is, trying to be in a caloric deficit so he can have a six pack? It's like, no, these guys are trying to be fast. They're trying to be very well-conditioned athletes. And the byproduct of that is they're ripped. And, for folks who think, well, I'm a sales guy, fitness isn't really my thing. It's like the product that you're selling whether it's a software product, whether it's a financial services product, it's always bundled with you. And so somebody's always buying you. And, before I started commercializing this fitness system that I developed, I was in sales. I elevator pitched my way into a six-figure Google job with no sales experience because I looked good in a suit and I could speak well and tell a good story. And if I was fat and sloppy and I couldn't wear a suit and I didn't look like I was on top of things, do you really think I would have been able to talk my way into that six-figure position with no experience? Probably not. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that was the benefit of me training, is even though I had not been a professional athlete for a couple of years leading up to that elevator pitch, I knew from my experience in athletics that people simply treat you better when you look good.
Yeah, they do. I mean, like it or not, we judge one another. And, so funny, we belong to a couple of wineries out here. There's 50 of them out where we live. And this one has an ugly sweater contest every Christmas, and they have dinner and it's fun. And I've got this crazy unicorn sweater that's electric. So it's got lights and it flashes. And I got an ugly suit. So I wear the pants and I wear the sweater. And I was walking by, and so the staff of the winery are the judges, right? Mm-hmm. And we're walking, and this lady that works there, she's like 10 feet away from me. I'm getting in line with the buffet, and I'd see her like totally scan me up and down. And she sees me see her. So I start laughing. I'm like, you're checking me out, huh? I mean, I'm a hot package. So we're laughing. But it's like, we all do that. We check everybody out from head to toe immediately.
Yeah.
As we see someone. So it includes attire. It includes physical fitness.
Right. Right. And people, I think the human mind, and if you're going to be good at sales, you have to understand human psychology. And, through my life experience in multiple domains, I worked in sales, worked at a hedge fund, played professional sports, run my own business now. I found that people almost always will judge others based on a few metrics that they themselves are good at. So people who are good at making money judge other people based on how much money they make. People who are good looking judge other people on how good looking they are. People who are strong judge other people based on their physical strength. And the reality is the world's going to judge you by the things the world's going to judge you by, whether they're the criteria you use or not. And some of the most obvious ways you can give yourself an advantage in your career are looking good and speaking well and showing up on time. Basically, those are the three things, and they're all equally important. You can be late. If you're good looking and speak well, people will give you the benefit of the doubt. But if you're late and you don't look good and you can't speak well, people will assume probably correctly that you're not on top of your stuff.
Well, they say good, fast, cheap, pick two.
Right.
So look good, speak well, show up on time. You got to do two of those three things every time.
Yeah.
And, and ideally you do all three, but
right.
So can you share some tips, little nuggets? I mean, I'm linking to your Twitter. So your Twitter, and it's in the show notes, but it's Alex Feinberg and the number 1.
Yeah.
You've got recipes there. You've got fat loss programs. You've got speaking requests. But it looks like you do one-on-one coaching as well, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But what are some things some folks can do? You mentioned good foods. I mean, so I see your Twitter here. I see a lot of meat. Amen. I see some pizza. So you're not like it's not like carnivore.
Nope.
So it's eat like literally eat whatever you want? Or
no.
what?
So that's a misconception. It's not eat whatever you want. Right. There's a specific way that I construct these meals, and there's a specific way that I go about eating them that allows me to eat without tracking. Right. What people don't realize is calories only started being included on food labels like 50 years ago. And the United States was far less fat 50 years ago. So since calories started to enter into the lexicon of American dieters, Americans have only gotten fatter. And so we know from historical experience that calorie counting is just not necessary to be lean. But what I found is fairly necessary that people can easily do, right? Because I never tell people to go hungry. That's one thing that I, as a coach, will not do. There's plenty of coaches who will tell you, well, you just got to be hungry. It's like, yeah, you can lose weight if you're willing to be hungry, but you're not going to be hungry indefinitely. You're going to relapse if you're just trying to go hungry for a long period of time. So 2 things that people can do that tend to make a pretty good difference, especially for beginners, is just wait until you're hungry to eat. And I know that sounds very basic, but so many people, it's 8 o'clock, I'm going to go eat breakfast. Oh, it's 12 o'clock, it's lunchtime. Oh, it's 7 o'clock, I'll eat dinner. It's like, is your body really in a position where it's telling you that it wants food? Like, we don't go to the bathroom unless our body says, hey, we got to go to the bathroom. Why would we eat if our body's not saying, hey, we should eat? And, I got to eat now so I won't be hungry later. It's like, why don't you just wait, right? Just wait until you're hungry. Wait until the easiest way to eat less is to not eat when you're not hungry, right? It's a lot easier to not eat when you're not hungry than it is to not eat when you are hungry. So why don't we just start with not eating when you're not hungry? And when you are hungry.
Yeah, but man, look, that can of Pringles ain't going to eat themselves. All right.
No, it's not. And the other thing,
when I'm watching the game, it's bowl season. We're recording this during bowl season, man.
Well, I'm not saying you can't eat.
Need me some Lay's potato chips, some ranch.
I mean, do you? Because you can eat chicken wings too. Do you like chicken wings?
I do.
Okay. Well, there's usually a protein.
Not as much though. I like chicken nuggets, but I'll just go along with it for conversation.
Well, we can do baby steps, right? Because chicken nuggets may not be the ideal meal, but they're going to have a lot more protein than Pringles, right? So what most people will find is that if they eat protein dominant real food, and I don't know if chicken nuggets would fall into the real food category. Chicken wings would. If you eat protein dominant real food and you only eat it when you're hungry and you stop eating it when you're not hungry, and that's it. That's all you do from a dietary standpoint. Most people will lose weight just doing those 2 things. Protein dominant real food only when you're hungry, stop eating when you're full. That's it. Right. And, I go into a number of different ways where we can make this as easy as possible. That's in my 10 easy wins for easier fat loss ebook. It's not hard. It's hard. It takes like a few minutes of planning every day. That's it. You have to be intentional about it. It's not going to happen by accident, but it doesn't require a ton of willpower.
So the Wiener Schnitzel and Arby's, that's protein dominant, right?
If you throw out the bun, right? If you throw out the carbs, it may be. No, I eat animal fat, right? And so, hot dog or something like that's it's not good, but there's probably worse things you could be putting in your body than that. And so, every time I construct my plate, I want the largest portion of real estate to be animal flesh. If the largest portion of real estate on my plate is animal flesh, and I wait until I'm hungry to eat it, and I stop eating when I'm not hungry, that keeps me looking like, between that and my gym protocol, that keeps me looking basically like this year round. This is like, I'm 36 years old. I'm closer to 37 than 36. And I've looked like this my entire 30s, right? No TRT, no PEDs, not until I turn 40. Then I'll start dabbling or considering them. But no, I'm just, that's all I do.
TRT or PEDs or both?
I'll look into everything. Once I turn 40, it's like, well,
what exactly are PEDs? I know
it would be
enhancing drugs, but I mean,
TRT, steroids, or human growth hormone. And I joke, like, will I take it when I'm 40? Probably not, but I'll start looking into it, right? Because as you get over 40, you're like, well, you gotta look into other areas to see what we can do better. But
this may or may not be on track, but what's this deal with sunning your butthole? I keep saying this. Is that a real thing? I know people are doing it.
Your balls, like people want to have higher testosterone.
What's up with that?
Well, okay, so
is that real?
It is real. People do it.
I know people do it. Is there a real benefit to it?
I could not tell you. I've not done it myself. I don't know if there's a benefit to it, but I will tell you that the environment that we live in today is filled with hormonally disruptive products, yes. Right? Phytoestrogens, xenoestrogens, synthetic estrogen that will disrupt your endocrine system. And a couple of byproducts of that, in my view, are the sperm count of Western males is down by like 40 to 50% over the last 50 years. The testosterone levels and sperm count are down 40 to 50% over the last 50 years. We can point to a couple different things. One, introduction of birth control into the water supply, plastics, a lot of synthetic cleaning agents that people use in their households. We're exposed to all of these things that they don't kill us today. So a lot of people don't think that there's anything wrong with them. But if you actually look at our endocrine system, we're metabolically much less healthy than we were 50 years ago. And so people are naturally looking for ways to enhance their testosterone production to make their endocrine system healthier. And so that's where you get into some of these exotic solutions like sunning your butthole, sunning your balls.
What is the endocrine system?
It's it's the system that controls your hormonal production, okay. Right? Your estrogen levels, your testosterone levels, things involving your thyroid. And I think this will become obvious over the next 10 years, but I believe fat loss is much more of a hormonal issue than it is from a calorie counting issue, mm-hmm. Right? Your hormonal system influences how many calories you burn at rest. It determines how much of our weight we want to store as muscle versus fat, right? And so people, in my view, are spending a lot of time trying to count their calories, track what they burn, track what they eat, when the reality is that they focused on creating an environment where a healthier hormonal system can flourish. In most cases, they're going to have much better results.
Mm-hmm. So drink the sugar-free Red Bull then. That'll help the endocrine system.
Or coffee. Why don't we have coffee instead of Red Bull?
All right, fine. I hate those energy drinks. It's so funny. Like I can't do any energy stuff. Like, and I've tried a bunch, and it's like, just go to sleep, man. Just I want to perform better. Just get sleep.
Yeah.
I get itchy face, those pre-workouts, and I've noticed like my cardio, I perform worse in jiu-jitsu when I'm taking the pre-workout kind of stuff. It does something with my cardio. I don't know if
it probably dehydrates you.
I feel bad.
Particularly now, do you feel bad in the beginning or do you feel bad at the end?
So we don't spar until like an hour into the training. So we warm up, calisthenics, stretching, then we train some moves, and we spar in the last 30 minutes. So if I'm drinking that thing on the way over there, it's about 90 minutes between the time I consume it to the time I'm full on sparring. And
so 90 minutes isn't long enough for it to be out of your system. The half-life of caffeine is 6 to 7 hours. So my guess is it's actually dehydrating you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do them. I drink black coffee. I drink maybe a glass of regular tea, unsweetened, in the afternoon. That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
it keeps me awake. My wife, she'll bring tea to bed. We go out to eat, and our daughter, several daughters, worked at restaurants, and they know. We went last night. And my daughter, she gives her tea all night long, and then gives her like 2 big cups to go. I'm like, if I drink caffeine like that at night, I'm up all night. I can't do it.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
But what's weird? I can drink coffee. Like if I'm tired, wake up early on a weekend, I drink my coffee, I do some reading and writing. I can pound coffee and still 9, 10 o'clock, go take an hour nap in the morning.
Oh.
But at night, I can't fall asleep if I have caffeine, but I can in the morning. Weird.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Yeah, everything I'm seeing, it's like, I hate the government. Our food pyramid's upside down. The CIA is literally created the word conspiracy theorists.
It's popularized it. Yeah.
They admit that they killed JFK. Nobody gives a shit. I mean,
okay. Tell me about this admission of JFK, because I have assumed that they did for years. Right.
Oh yeah.
Now, so anything new short of we did this is not an admission to me. Now, I saw the Tucker Carlson piece, and what I saw in the Tucker Carlson piece was a CIA agent, a man who purported to be a CIA agent. So we can't know that he was, simply say that he believes that the CIA did it. Right.
Yeah.
So in my view, unless there's more evidence that was released in the last week that's outside of that, in my view, that doesn't advance the assumption I already had, right? The assumption I had was this was the case. The evidence that's been released in the last couple of weeks, in my view, isn't a smoking gun. It's more like, yeah, I'm probably right for thinking that, but I'm not 100% right for thinking that.
Sure, that's fair enough. It's the number of things coming out though, like through the Twitter files. That's how I found you.
Yeah,
it's on Twitter. It's just, the FDA admits there's a connection that maybe blood clots from Pfizer, just on and on and on. People, even my mom's hopping my ass, but it's like, I took an oath in the military to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always asked people, like, who put that in there? Why did they put that in there? Does anybody know what that means? How do we identify them? Who identifies them? What do we do when we do identify them? And literally nobody can answer that question.
Well, people can,
we have domestic enemies right now in this country. I'm like, what do we do about it? Oh, I don't know. Eat some Pringles, watch some games, bread and circus. Never mind.
Yeah, well, and the domestic enemies are trying to convince the people that the people who oppose them are the domestic enemies.
Right.
That's the challenge, right? So for people who are not plugged in, who just kind of believe what the mainstream media tells them, they'll think that the biggest threat that we face is white supremacy and all these, it's like, I'm pretty sure I've been biracial my entire life, and I've been exposed to low levels of racism my entire life, but it's not anything near the threat of communism in the United States.
Yeah. It's just, but I look at this, like with food, it's like literally everything is being done by the powers that be to weaken us.
Yeah.
Our education system is crap. Our diet is crap. Our business environment is crap. The government lies to it. I tell people all the time, look, there's only 3 things a nation must control to control its people. Right. One is the media. It's why the Soviet Union had Pravda. Right. North Korea, nothing gets disseminated without the government approving it. So you don't know what the truth is. So right now, we don't know what the truth is. Is Tucker Carlson trustworthy? Is Rachel Maddow trustworthy? I mean, so you control the information. You control guns, right? If they can't fight back, you're safe, and you control the money.
Food.
If you gave me, well, you can. If you control the guns, you can control the food, right? If I can't fight you, I was picking on my neighbor when I lived in Austin. We were up in Round Rock, and our neighbors across the street were Mormons, and they are very good about preparing for the future, right? I think just by their religion,
they always have to keep like 6 months worth of food on them,
or more. Yeah, I mean 6 months to a couple of years. They got huge food stores, and I was picking on her. I was like, "Hey, you got any guns?" She's like, "No, I don't like guns." I said, "Oh, okay, then keep storing up food because that way I can eat."
Yeah.
She's like, what? I'm like, deep down, that's what's going to happen. But so
Yeah, of
anyway,
course.
if you take away everybody's weapons, then it's just, you better be in good shape. You better be able to use a stick. So
Right.
that baseball background is going to come in handy. You can swing that bat and get some chicken strips. I mean, they're
Bugs.
trying to do that, right? They're slowly doing that. So our
Well,
information is.
and the insidious thing is, if you look at there's always a sequence of events for their strategy. So the propaganda always follows in, well, let's try to get the people to voluntarily do it. And so we have like the push for vegetarianism, the push for veganism, you try to make it
Yeah, well,
popular.
Robert Downey Jr. Have you seen that dude?
I saw the raw egg
The
nationalist
before and
post.
after.
Yeah, so veganism makes you unhealthy, certainly, right? It's just you deprive your body of essential essential nutrients. It doesn't do well, obviously. But it's a lot cheaper to convince people to walk the plank themselves than to have somebody push them off. So step number one in any propaganda plan is to try to convince people to walk the planks themselves. Step number two is to try to convince the people that those who will not willingly walk the plank themselves are a threat to their safety. So you try to get the people to turn against themselves to get to increase compliance and get more of them to voluntarily walk the plank. And then if that doesn't work, then you can just look up north to Justin Trudeau and say, well, okay, if the propaganda doesn't work, if the peer pressure doesn't work, then they're going to start applying economic sanctions to the people, and that was touched upon in the US, where they tried to push through certain vaccine mandates via OSHA, right? And so, step one, screw with their minds. Step two, try to create domestic enemies who will screw with the people's minds. Number three, try to disarm them economically. And then the step four would be what you saw in Australia, which is, well, you just put them in prison. Right. And then that's literally the marching orders and the sequence of how all these initiatives go, unless they're stopped.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's why I love being an entrepreneur, man. We can make things we want to make, sell things we want to sell, determine our own income, surround ourselves with the people we want to be surrounded with, not be forced into whatever. So many
Diversity
people are
trainings.
just, oh my gosh, so many people are just hypnotized. They're just zombies living, they're not even living. They're just trudging through life.
Right.
And, I mean, it's one of the reasons I want to talk to you. I mean, food is important. Health is, why do anything if you don't have your health? And if you're living a life that is literally killing you, what's the purpose of any of it?
Oh, sure.
And so with everybody now, many more people at least able to work from home, even in a hybrid model, it gives you some time to plan, figure out this food thing, start moving your body like, holy crap. And let's get after it, and when we're done, we can talk. I've launched this 12 weeks to peak program. It's a free program just to give people accountability, but it's more well-rounded than the things I've seen out there, because most of them are either just business or just fitness, so this is kind of blending everything. Again, we don't do anything in a vacuum. I see these like tough fitness programs, but when they end, people revert back, because like you were saying, you can't be hungry forever.
Well, and it goes a little bit deeper than that, because people's assumption about fitness and about their bodies is completely misaligned with reality, right? Most people ignore fitness until they look in the mirror and they say, I look terrible. What can I do to get these 25 pounds off me? I'm willing to do anything. And so they commit to a 30-day or 90-day lifestyle change. It's like, okay, well, you realize your life is going to be longer than 30 to 90 days. And your body is a reflection of what you've done for the last 10 years, not for the last 30 days. I mean, yes, it's a reflection of what you've done for the last 30 to 90 days, but it's also a reflection of what you've done for the last 10 years. And so, my approach with myself and with the people that I work with is, I will never tell you to make an adjustment today that you're not capable of making every day for the next 10 years, because it's pointless. Like, great, we can drop you 20 pounds in 90 days, but if you haven't held on to the habits that got you there, it's completely worthless, because you'll gain it back in the next 90 days.
Yeah. Yeah, because we can all hold our nose and push through something, most anything, uh, for a period of time, for a fixed window. And like years ago, it was like, I think it was 2001. Our neighbors got us into the Bill Phillips's Body for Life. You remember that program?
No, I'm not familiar with that. That's a little bit
Uh,
before my time, I think.
yeah. So he was with a company, created a supplement company called EAS, and so his idea was eat 6 meals a day, eat clean for 6 days, have one day a week is your free day, cardio one day, weightlifting the other. So you alternate. So 6 days a week of exercising, and eating pretty clean, balanced diet, and give yourself a reward once a week. Like, okay, like that worked for my wife and me like forever. We got in shape. We were able, I was already working out, but I was like just doing old school, my football routine, and so finding something like that was sustainable. I think it still is sustainable. If somebody's got to do something, it's better than nothing. So, but yeah, there's just so many things. They push people so hard, and then they just gain it all back because it's just too unrealistic.
Yeah, and not just that, it's almost like, so my business model, I make okay money. I make about as much money running my online business as I did working in tech. But my business model is not a very good business model, right? If somebody came to me with my business model, I would say, I'm not going to invest in that business. It's a good product, right? I can see you're helping people, but investable products have a couple things that my business doesn't have. They have proprietary information. So a pharmaceutical company that can help you lose weight with a pill has monopoly protection, and that other competitors can't create that identical pill for 20 years through patents. Well, I don't have that. Other people can create similar products to me and sell them at a lower rate than I sell them at. And so I don't have the ability to monopolize or form a cartel around, my intuitive fitness system. So it's not a good business in that regard. The second reason it's not a good business is it works, right? So people, they come to me one time. They're not going to come to me 10 times. Go to Weight Watchers, you go to Weight Watchers 10 times because it works while you do it. Then you stop doing it. Then you go back to it. Then you stop doing it. Then you go back to it. And so you sold that customer for 3 months, 6 months, but you didn't sell them once. You sold that 10 times. So you actually have that same customer working on that program for 3 to 6 years cumulatively. Mm-hmm. Where people who work with me, they work with me for 3 to 6 months. They learn my system and they have a plan that will suit them for life.
But let me ask you, I mean, things like Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, all those things, they work partly because we are social creatures. It is good to have a workout partner, an accountability partner, somebody to support you, remind you, you're doing well, and pick you up if you do slip a little bit. Won't there always be that component to humans that you could somehow tap into?
I mean, it depends why you're out of shape. Are you out of shape for the same reason that an alcoholic's an alcoholic? Are you using food as a drug? If you're using food as a drug, then in some sense, you probably do need a program that more similarly models the 12-step program than anything else. But if you simply need to learn a system that you can replicate on your own, do you need to have somebody remind you to go to the bathroom? Right? Your body tells you when you need to go to the bathroom, just like your body tells you when you need to eat. So if you just learn that, hey, if I listen to my body and stop going against my body, I will stop being my own worst enemy. And the end results end up being a lot better and a lot more sustainable than anything I've ever tried before.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But there's something there, longer term connection. I don't know, graduates, something you could do, because people do. Like I had gotten bored with my exercise routine. When I found jujitsu, it was cool because it's doing it with others, having friends, going through the trials and tribulations is easier when you're going through it with others. So there's an ongoing component there for you. But I know what you're saying. It's when you do it right, set people on the right course, they don't need constant upgrades, and the continuity model is a little tougher.
Sure.
So what are you going to do? What do you keep coming up with new programs? How do you address that?
Well, I want to get my message in front of as many people as possible. That's why we do these podcasts and talk about how fun fitness can be. And I always post all my delicious meals because I want people to realize, like, yeah, I post my training videos because I do train, right? But my workouts are way easier than what people think. It's like when you know what you're doing, just like as a salesperson, you think about how much money you're making now versus the first year of your career, right? Are you working harder now than you worked the first year of your career?
Nope.
You're probably making 10, 20 times more than you were your first year of your career because you know how to do it. And that's the same thing with everything, is when you know how to do it, you have to work hard, but you work hard at a much smaller subset of things because you realize, hey, these 3 things I have to get right. These 20 things that everybody says they need to get right, yeah, maybe it helps to get them right, but we can overcome not getting these 20 things right if we just make sure we knock it out of the park with these 3 things.
Right.
And that's why you'll never see me skip conditioning. That's why you'll never see me skip leg day. And that's why you'll never see me not eat protein dominant real food, because those are the 3 things that I need to get right in order for me to eat delicious food every meal of every day, not count calories, never go hungry, and stay ripped 24/7, 365.
Yep. You think we have an alcohol problem in this country?
I think some people have an alcohol problem. The top decile of this country drinks 10 drinks a day. I think the people below that. So that's the thing that a lot of people in sales, they don't quite get is, yes, salesmen are alcoholics commonly, but most people don't actually drink that much. 90% of Americans average less than 2 drinks a day, 2.2 drinks a day or less. I don't think somebody drinking 2.2 drinks a day is an alcoholic. Right. So 90% of
No, they're not an alcoholic, but like, how is that helping them? I've noticed now, man, I'm 52, pushing 53. And if I can have 2 usually, but if I have 3 drinks for sure, I don't sleep well.
Right. I'm at 1. If I have 1 drink, I don't sleep as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm just pretty much over it.
Right. Yeah. But I think a lot of,
So I don't mean like the whole nation's an alcoholic, but it's like it's just promoted everywhere. And it's like, you don't really need it.
Well, the most lucrative businesses are vices. If you want to be a billionaire, become a vice merchant. If you want to become a trillionaire, so if you want to be a millionaire, be a vice merchant. If you want to be a billionaire, be a vice merchant of a product or service that you hold an exclusive right to. Right. And so that can be dopamine. That can be dopamine in the form of a social media network. It can be drugs in the form of a pharmaceutical drug that you hold a patent on. Or, it could be alcohol in the sense that the alcohol distribution is a fairly tightly controlled market in the US. Alcohol is sort of a cartel in that regard. Addictive products sell. They have recurring customers paying money every week. And so the more profitable a product is, the more money the vendor has to popularize it, the more embedded in our culture it's going to be. And so that's one reason why gambling is popular, because gambling is profitable for casinos. So they can spend more money advertising how fun it is for them, not for you, and you lose all your money to them. But the same thing is true with any drug. Is the vendor makes money, and with the profits, they can spend a portion of them to convince you that it's okay. And with any vice merchant, one of the biggest obstacles is convincing people that the thing that they're selling is not only not that bad for you, but you actually deserve it. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you want to sell milkshakes, call it a frappuccino. Right. If you want to sell softcore porn, call it Instagram. And if you can mask your vice in some sort of virtue or some sort of benign product or service that people are buying, people are going to be much more likely to buy it and consume it regularly. And then they're hooked, and they don't even consider themselves addicts, which are the best addicts, because they'll continue to buy from you, use your product, and keep making money off of them.
Why do people keep buying into the whole veganism thing?
Well,
like who does that truly benefit?
I think well, we have to peel the onion several layers deep on that. I think there's no surprise that it aligns very well with leftism and Marxism. Because if you look at leftist ideology, liberal ideology in 2022, it starts with the fundamental misconception of how life works, right? So leftists, Marxists, they think that life is perfect without humans. And so they think it's perfect without society. They actually think humans are perfect without society too. So they think both the earth and humans are perfect without society, and society is the thing that makes everything bad. So if all we do is remove society, which is the thing that's holding everybody back, then everything's going to work just fine. So if we stop taking advantage of other animals, then everything will work just fine. And so basically, leftism is sort of a deconstructionist idea where if we stop doing the things that hold society together, we're going to flourish. That's what they think. Whereas people on the right are like, no, if we stop doing things that hold society together, everything's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's a fundamental disagreement on what happens if we stop doing the things that keep the lights on. And those who embrace magical thinking believe if we stop doing the things that keep the lights on, then everything's going to get better.
Crazy. But then like even the medical though, like my cholesterol has been over 200 for several years. And so the VA sees me twice a year now. They want to monitor it. Like, okay, fine. So 7 months ago, it was in the 240s. And I've been doing intentionally like almost a carnivore diet, a lot more meat, very few vegetables, less bread, I'd eat fruit, almost no alcohol. And my cholesterol dropped 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go see the doc. They run the blood work. I go, oh, you're over 200. You have high cholesterol. You want statins? I'm like, no. Okay, well, look, just change your diet, eat a lot less animal protein, blah, blah, blah. And I said, by chance, what was it 6 months ago? So she thumbs back through the paperwork. Goes, oh, yeah, over 240. So yeah, you dropped. Oh, well, keep doing what you're doing. I go, okay, yeah, we'll do. So even the medical profession is giving me wrong advice.
Of course.
So like, who the hell can we trust?
Trust what your body's telling you. If you feel like shit doing something for months on end, like there's a good chance that you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Start from there. Like you're not supposed to feel unhealthy every day.
So if, some people follow like an elimination diet. So if somebody was to do just a reset, and like go extreme for a week, let's say, and then start reintroducing things, like what would you say, what should they go to? Should they go carnivore and try it for a week? And then
why reset? I don't believe in resets. Resets are a repackaging of extreme.
Well, I'm saying if somebody's running around 10, 20, 30 years, they got their bad habits, they do feel like crap. What changes should they make? Just go back to make sure animal protein is the biggest real estate on your plate, and
don't eat when you're not hungry. Just don't eat when you're not hungry. It's foot in the door, right? We're not gonna. Yep. Rather than, I want to boil the frog. I want to make each change imperceptible from the previous change. I don't want to make an extreme change. So let's start by, hey, we're only going to eat when we're hungry. Not going to ever tell you to go hungry. We're just going to eat when we're hungry. And when we are hungry, we're going to eat protein dominant real food. Well, let's just see how that goes.
Yep.
If we go in the wrong direction, we can make an adjustment off of that. Some people may go in the wrong direction of that. But those two changes are not hard to make. So let's make those two first, and we'll see where we go after that.
Okay. Easy enough.
There you go.
We'll wrap it up there. I got one more call, and then jiu-jitsu, man. So
there you go.
And when I come to Austin, I'll come see you.
Sounds
if you
good.
come to SoCal, if you're crazy enough to come back to SoCal, let me know.
I'll go to San Diego. San Diego is about as California as I can get, because they've stayed relatively sane through it all.
All right. Well, I'm an hour north, so come up and do some jiu-jitsu. All right.
All right, Les.
Alex Feinberg 1 on Twitter. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It's been great.
Thank you, sir. This is awesome. Peace out.
See ya. Move more, eat less is not always the right answer to look good with your shirt off. All right. Sounds good. And, and it makes sense. Obviously, if you need to lose weight, you need to burn more calories than you consume. But I think what most people confuse or don't understand is that there are different ways to burn more calories. When you lift weights, you may not burn as many calories as if you run a marathon or even run at all. But as you build muscles, you are burning more calories every hour of every day than if you just burn calories, with cardio. I've also heard that you burn more calories if you eat before you do your cardio versus I think you burn more fat if you do fasted cardio. So, there's a lot of things out there, but I think a lot of people put a lot of things out there because either they don't totally understand the concept. It's a little bit of that fake it till you make it. I think some make things hard to justify big fees and to justify keeping you plugged into their program forever. I read something just this morning, actually. A guy that I follow, he was in the Air Force, enlisted dude, did I think just the minimum time and got out, and is super smart and it's multi-millionaire, multiple businesses. He posts regularly, and he posts, maybe it's contrarian, I don't know. He doesn't hold back, though. And he was talking this morning about that SBX, whatever, that dude lost billions of dollars or whatever in crypto, and the whole thing just stinks to high heaven. It's dirty, but what he was talking about was how people hide behind complexity. You should be able to describe what you do on the back of a napkin or the back of an envelope over lunch to a fifth grader. Okay, now, the intricacies, of course, can be quite complex. My 8-year-old, when she was 3, could use an iPhone and an iPad. So very easy to use. The technology underneath it to make it that simple is extremely complex. But what was the iPod, right? 1,000 songs in your pocket. Super simple to explain. Can you explain what you do that simply? Most people can't. I'm working with a technology implementation company, and I asked this question when we were in person back in December, and nobody could give a concise, decent answer. And, the feedback from the senior staff, it was ironic. Like, one of the top salespeople complained that my training was rudimentary. Now, I was just brought in for a day to kind of lay a foundation. So it was kind of rudimentary. We were setting the stage, like literally and figuratively. And there were more junior, less experienced salespeople than senior salespeople. But top performers appreciate the basics and the fundamentals. In November, I got my brown belt in jiu-jitsu. That's pretty high up, right? One away from black. And I still feel like I don't know anything. But we have a very experienced, very technical, knowledgeable black belt who was filling in last week for our main instructor who was on vacation with his family. And for 4 days, we covered one attack. And now, as of this month, I've been training for 6 years. Easily 5 days a week on average, usually 6 days a week. It's a lot of training. And this one particular choke from the back, it's kind of fundamental. It's everybody knows, at least they think they know it, but despite doing it for 4 days after training for 6 years, I still learned something every single day that he taught the class. It was amazing. I even helped out with the kids class one night, and the instructor that night was teaching what Cody had been covering. So I appreciate the fundamentals, and it's so crazy. 9.5 days out of 10, we do the exact same warm-up. And we have kind of two basic warm-ups, routines that we follow, but they incorporate the same moves for the most part. And I finally understand, like, as I've gotten better, the best jiu-jitsu performers are just very good at the fundamentals. I notice how simple things, hip escape, getting away quickly from an attacking, launching opponent, recognizing the attack, getting out of the way quickly, having your hands, feet, knees, elbows in the proper place as you do that hip escape, absorbing the attack if they do get by your main line of defense, which is your legs, your guard, framing them appropriately to absorb that attack and not be immobilized. So you can then do what they call bridging, bridge and shrimp, pushing away. And it's fundamental. But the best guys are the best because they know those fundamentals the best. And then, yes, then they apply some fancy moves, but usually because the fundamentals were done so properly, so well, they can go after high percentage fundamental attacks. They don't need the fancy stuff. I gave a talk years ago. I guess this was years ago. It was before COVID. I gave a talk in Jacksonville, and it was another high-tech type company, and it was their annual sales meeting, and a couple hundred people in the room, 150 or so, I don't know, and they were golfing, and so the theme was golf, and so I did some research, and the Masters that Tiger had won, I think it was when he had come back and won after all of his issues. I remember looking it up. Tiger made more putts outside of 20 feet than like the next 4 or 5 competitors combined. And now, a long putt is not truly fundamental. Those can be tough to make, but compared to the entire game of golf, putting is not hard. It's not a physically demanding thing, right? My mother-in-law with a bad back can putt the ball 20, 30, 50 feet, right? So physically, my 8-year-old can putt a ball 50 feet, 100 feet. I got a little putting green. She and her cousins can smack that thing a little too hard, but I digress. So are you good at the fundamentals? Are you disciplined enough to do the fundamentals? And most aren't. That's why most underperform. That's why most salespeople don't hit their quotas. They're looking for the silver bullet. You're running yourself ragged, and the fact is you don't have the discipline to do the fundamentals. So do the fundamentals regularly. And maybe you're self-disciplined, that's fine. But if you're not, or if you recognize the catalyst, the compounding effect you can have from coaching, consulting, surrounding yourself with like-minded people, that's where programs like mine come in. Gorillas of Growth. Maybe it's the Make Every Sale program if you just want to do it on your own, but having the accountability, the ability to ask questions on a regular basis, ask questions in the group, ask questions on the live calls. It's affordably priced, and it's just meant to help you stay the course. That's what guys like Alex are doing. He admits his program is low cost, it's fundamental, but when you get a couple of the key things right, everything else starts to fall in place. But if you don't get the fundamentals right, like they say, the truth doesn't matter if I can get you to ask the wrong questions. You're probably asking the wrong questions in your fitness, in your diet, in your sales. So if I can help, let me know. All right? I'll go sell something.